I can't believe I'm doing this because it's really not something we need to discuss, but let's talk about Israel. I know people in Texas that just lost their jobs because of factories closing because AI and automation took all their jobs. It's in the defense sector, and a lot of jobs in Texas are in the defense sector. And they don't know what they're going to do. This is not a national news story because we need to talk about Israel because Israel is our problem, right? And I drive on these roads and bridges every day, and y'all know there's a problem because you drive on them too, and you bounce up and down out of your seat like you're riding a rodeo bull. Our roads and bridges are crumbling and old and in need of repair, and there's road work slowing you down. That's where our money should be going. It's what we should be talking about. But no, let's talk about Israel because Israel is our problem. It's something we need to discuss. I don't know. I just opted out of my health insurance because I'm tired of paying into a scam. I don't have to tell you it's a scam. I've read the comments section when somebody like Dan Crenshaw or Ben Shapiro tried to paint the United Healthcare CEO as the victim. And even the Fox News watching crowd was, I don't condone violence, but listen, this is a bad situation. They're just ripping us off. You know, an American stepped up and killed the CEO of a private health insurance company because they're robbing us blind. Tired of paying into a scam. I just quit giving them my money. But no. Let's not talk about our actual problems. Cars are bankrupting people. The need to fix and keep and maintain at least one car, it's costing more people more money than they're ever going to have. You know, that's going on with housing, you know, issues that actually affect people. No. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Israel. That's what needs to be in the media. Or let's talk about Donald Trump's involvement in this stuff that's breaking so that we don't have to talk about Israel's involvement. I mean, you can take your pick, but we're constantly talking about Israel. Okay. Let's very briefly. Now, I'm going to urge you to read the entire Bible. Most Americans haven't. I know this because I've gone to church as far south as Houston, Texas, as far north as Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And most Americans I've met have not read the Bible. You can get them to admit in mid-conversation they haven't read it. I've read it, I'm going to say 3 times because I will not read the book of Numbers or Deuteronomy more than 3 times. And you shouldn't either unless someone's paying you. It's torture. Okay. I'm just going to briefly. This is the written history of Israel. So, we're just going to go to verse 3. Read this whole book, read this entire chapter, read the whole Old Testament, and you will see this is not abnormal behavior for God at all. This is the God that these Jews, and yes, I said these Jews, because the 12 tribes of Israel is a thing of the past. About all that's left is the tribe of Judah, and that and a few other reasons is why they're called Jews. You don't hear anybody talking about the Benjamites or, you know, the half tribe of Manasseh anymore. So, but I'll probably lose my job because I even said that much. But, okay, we're going to go to verse 3. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, infant and nursing, child, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. God commands King Saul to go to Amalek and kill everything, annihilate everything living, pretty much. Yeah, so Saul goes down there, starts killing stuff, but down in verse 9, but Saul and the people spared Agag, the king, and the best of the sheep, the oxen, the fatlings, the lambs, and all that was good, and were unwilling to utterly destroy them. But everything despised and worthless, that they utterly destroyed. Okay. So God comes to Samuel and gives him a message about that. God's very highly upset. And Saul explains to Samuel, we saved some of these animals to sacrifice to God for burnt offerings. Samuel said, has the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he also has rejected you from being king. So, Saul cheated God out of a little bit of bloodshed. And the rest of Saul's life was tumultuous. He lost a son, Jonathan, and went crazy. It was bad. Continue reading the story. God punished him. This should come as a surprise to no one, because, I don't know, one other story of several where God tells Israel to annihilate everything in the land. That's who he told them to be. And from the moment they set foot over there, the story of the Passover is where God sends the angel of death to kill every baby in Egypt because of an argument he was having with the Pharaoh. And he told his people, put the blood of the lamb over the lintel and doorpost, or the angel of death will kill your kids too. But if you think that I'm being ridiculous because you're one of these God is good parrots constantly saying God is good because you drove a car off the car lot and have a ridiculous amount of payments, it's going to keep you broke for the rest of your life. But God is good. Most of these people, you can get them to admit they've never read the Bible. I'm not out here talking about God is good. God is good. What? Because I've read the Bible. Let's see. All right. But if you think that I'm cherry picking or being ridiculous, no. This is what Job in chapter 9 verse it's really best to read the whole chapter, but verse 22, Job chapter 9 verse 22, after saying all of these things, pleading his innocence, he says this about God. Verse 22, it is all one thing, therefore I say he destroys the blameless and the wicked. If the scourge slays suddenly, he laughs at the plight of the innocent. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the faces of its judges. If it is not he, who else could it be? Now, 30 plus chapters of these three guys sitting around Job and basically telling him, no, you must have sinned, for God is good and he would never let this happen to you. Well, let's see what God had to say about that. Okay. In chapter 42, verse 7, And so it was, after the Lord had spoken these words to Job, that the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, my wrath is aroused against you and your two friends, for you have not spoken of me what is right, as my servant Job has. Read that. And go read the book. Job called God very mean and ruthless and unjust. And when God answered him out of the whirlwind, he basically, there's no apologies. He has, who is this? Who are you? Asks him several times. When you consider the whole thing opens with God and the devil parlaying over the life of a human. Okay, why am I saying about all this about Israel? Because it is a segue into something like this. If these images disgust you, tough shit. Because if God had anything to say about this matter, he would go to Benjamin Netanyahu and cuss him out from left to right and ask Netanyahu, why is there images of these babies and these women? They're supposed to be dead! All of them! That's the God of the Old Testament. That's the God that I've literally heard a Jew describe the God of the Old Testament as, I can see everything you do, and I'm going to kick your fucking ass. That come out of the mouth of a Jew. Okay. Listen, if you think I'm being harsh, or I'm taking things out of context, or I'm anti-God or anti-Christian, no. The whole history of this patch of planet here, the whole history of this piece of land here, which it is smaller than the county you live in. Take some time to look at the widest point. It's not even 100 miles wide. Look, this area of the world is smaller than the county that you live in. Why are we talking about it? Well, there's genocide there. Really. Can you name me, I've asked some of you this question over the last couple of weeks, can you name me the youngest country in the world, the newest country? You can't, most of you, so let's look at this. This was formerly known as the Darfur region of Sudan. Okay. Wow. Well, right there you can see it. Actually, let's go with that one. Right there you can see it. A lot more landmass than little bitty old Israel. So why don't you know where it is? Well, that genocide happened around 2004, 2005, 2010. I think is when South Sudan became a country. UN stepped in, I think, and anyway, they were the government in Khartoum, Sudan, was sending the Janjaweed militia down there to just annihilate people, ethnically cleanse people. Yeah, there was a genocide there, and you didn't hear anything about it. Or you would be able to tell me South Sudan is the youngest country in the world, the newest country in the world. Can't tell me that because you didn't hear about it. Why didn't you hear about it? I mean, look, the amount of land. A lot bigger than Israel. Look at it. You didn't hear about it because the most famous person in the history of the world was not murdered there. This happened in Jerusalem. And a story was written about it and made its way over here. And people care about it. So that's why we're even talking about Israel, because the most famous person in the history of the world was murdered there. So the only reason we're talking about Israel is because of bloodshed. Look, all that has ever happened over there, ever, in the history of that little piece of land, has always been about war and bloodshed. Okay, the Muslims that had inhabited that piece of land, all of a sudden one day saw these Red Cross wearing people coming on boats and jumping off and killing people, and were like, what the hell is this? These people were not on drugs. There really wasn't money involved. It's all about a story, and they're killing each other. Okay, I don't know. Let me pull one out of history. At Jerusalem Pizzeria 2000. See what comes up here. Okay. Okay, that this was at a Jerusalem Pizzeria. It was in USA Today in 2000. You can see somebody carrying off a human leg somewhere here. Why do I point out a suicide bombing from 2000? Because back then it wasn't really Hamas, it was the PLO and it was Hezbollah. But it's always going to be somebody. My point is that Benjamin Netanyahu cannot give you what you want if you are a peacenik and you are disgusted by the sight of starving women and children. Okay, if Netanyahu gives you what you want and pulls his armies out of Gaza and stops killing people and actually puts up money to rebuild hospitals and even turns himself over to the UN War Crimes Tribunal, what's going to happen 6 months later, a year later, I don't know, year and a half or less, Hamas, Hezbollah, the PLO, some new organization is going to do something like this, suicide bombing, rocket attack, something, and the rest of the world's going to look at them, you idiot, why did you do that? And well, I'll tell you why they did it. Because organizations like Hamas, they don't care how many dead Palestinians there are. They don't care how many innocent people die, how many innocent people starve. They don't care how many centuries this takes. All they care about is making sure that things like this are all over every media channel in the world. They want to make sure that Israel is rampaging and killing people and that they can film it and tell everybody in the world that will listen, look what evil people Israel is. We hate them. They have to go away. And they're going to continue to do that. Now, if you look in the Bible and you read the book of Esther, they would have been annihilated if it wasn't for the actions of Queen Esther. If you look in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah, when they're trying to build the second temple, there was resistance and strife. Hell, you let them disobey God one time and, I don't know, the Philistines, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, or even the city of Ai just murdered a lot of Israel, left a few alive. Kind of like what happened in the 1930s and 40s. You know, who knows what they did to piss God off? It could have been anything. He got mad at the drop of a hat and he was serious and he started killing people. He spent more time cussing Israel. All the books of the major prophets, God is telling Israel, you better stop doing what you want to do. You better start doing what I tell you to do. Or he's going to send Assyria or Babylon in and kill a lot of them and send the rest of them into slavery and take their land. Because they're disobedient, right? Okay. So, and then let's just take Hitler and the Nazis out of the equation. Golda Meir, the former prime minister of Israel, she was quoted as saying her earliest memory was a pogrom in Poland. So let's find out what that was. Let's see if that pulls up. Her earliest memories were of Moshe boarding up the front door in response to rumors of imminent pogrom. What is a pogrom? Okay, it is basically a pogrom is a violent riot or organized massacre directed against a particular ethnic or religious group. That had nothing to do with the Nazis. It was, there has been expulsion of or rounding up of Jews in the former Soviet Union. There has been, I don't even know how to look it up. Yeji Pashu was the name of the king over Jerusalem when Napoleon invaded. Okay, they threw the Jews out. Mark Twain is quoted as saying, every nation hates each other. They all hate the Jews. Okay. So, anyway. Okay. Oh, God, I'm not even going to include that. My point is that the Jews have always had to deal with someone who was out to get them, destroy them, something. They just hated them. And they're always going to. So, no, Netanyahu can't come out and give you peaceniks what you want. There will be no peace over there. There has never been any peace over there. Those people don't believe in peace. They're killers. That's who they are. That's what they do. That's what's always going to happen over there. It's nothing new. Okay. So, again, If this picture disgusts you, tough shit. That's life in Israel. So, what? Look, I'm just going to tell you this. To buy a house in Israel or to take a vacation there would be incredibly dumb, because you're probably going to get killed. It's just horrible. And like I said, these people aren't even on drugs. They're not, there's no money involved, nothing. They're just like this. I mean, a sane person, if they were in the White House, if anybody came to visit the United States from Israel or Palestinians, the president would say, get all of your embassies out of my country. You stay out of my country. I hope you kill each other. Do not contact me again. But no, you can't do that because okay. Let's just because there's 100 million of these people in the United States, and the extent of their education on this matter is we have to support Israel. They're God's chosen. So these people are going to send, these are people of modest means. They're going to send, money to Israel by giving to their church. And then, well, Israel runs the government. So, if you work for a living in the United States, your money's going to Israel. They're going to have money to do whatever they want. And it's never going to get any better. What do you want me to say here? Why are we even talking about this? I mean, can we talk about something that I can't even remember the guy's name, but can we talk about something we can actually fix instead of this centuries old? It's just disgusting. It's horrible. It's never going to end. It's what always happens over there. They kill each other. It's what they do. It's all they know. And I just blamed every church-going Christian in the United States for the genocide in Gaza. So I'm probably never going to be able to work in the United States again. Guess I better find me another country to move to and never touch a computer again. And, well, at least my money won't be going to the United States government anymore, so I won't be paying for this crap. At least I don't think. Because at the very least, these Jews are going to come after my job or something, because this is going to be deemed anti-Semitic. No, it's the truth of the situation.